The You're Gonna Love This or Not podcast contains harsh language and may not be suitable for younger listeners.
Why would you answer this call? Why would you answer this call? Why?
Hello?
Hey, man, what's up?
Oh, shit.
Oh, come on, man. You knew I was going to call us that time of the month again.
Yeah, I thought that was supposed to be like last week.
Well, we're a week late this time. Things happen.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, anyhow, are you ready for this month's movie?
Am I ever really ready?
No, you're never ready, but you better be. Because you know how we did Volcanuary with When Time Ran Out?
Yeah?
And I promised we would do Volcambruary.
Yeah?
Guess what, dude? It's time for Volmano.
Wow.
That's right. We're doing the movie we promised back in January that was like a straight-up ripoff of When Time Ran Out.
I'm actually pretty excited about this movie, not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah, the trailer for this movie was great. So, you're in?
Sure.
Awesome. We'll see you there.
All right, bye.
It's the third year of You're Gonna Love This or Not, and Matt still hasn't ran out of movies to show the people he calls his friends. This month, they're once again joined by producer Mike, along with special guest Dr. Erik Klemetti, to watch the 2019 disaster film Skyfire. This film, featuring Jason Isaacs, is about a tropical island, a dormant volcano, a volcano-themed park, and, well, about what you would expect when you put them all together. However, their guest is an actual volcanologist, so what will he have to say about this film? Let's listen to the trailer and then find out.
Welcome to the most extraordinary and unforgettable experience available on this planet. Tens of thousands of visitors a month. We've only just begun.
Natural spectacle presented as entertainment.
I mean, only a lunatic would build a world-class resort on a ticking time bomb of molten Earth, right?
The mountain's waking up. I need time to study it.
We're all going to be fine.
Matt, you son of a bitch.
Oh, come on, man. That movie was super fun. It's one of the top two volcano movies I've seen all year.
Yeah, but the other volcano movie we watched was really bad. So
it's actually a lie, because I've seen 4 volcano movies this year. But
that's a lot of volcano movies.
This is top 5.
Okay.
Anyhow, this week we have a special guest with us. A guest we've been waiting on for a while. Somebody whose work is terrific, and we're really happy to have him here. The writer of the Rocky Planet blog and formerly the Eruptions blog. We have Dr. Erik Klemetti with us this week.
He's a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Smartest guy we've ever had on the show. All right. Well, I'm sure we got a lot to talk about. This movie was Chinese. There we go.
This movie was interesting. I mean, it's got a very similar plot to the other volcano movie we watched.
Oh yeah, the trailer looked like a straight up ripoff of When Time Ran Out.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same movie with less tightrope walking.
Yeah, and I think I found out about this movie from Erik's Twitter account.
I
he posted the trailer.
I do recall doing that, and This is what's also the first time I've seen this movie, and it turns out that it actually, after watching it, I feel like it rips off a heck of a lot more of Dante's Peak than almost anything. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's
definitely.
It's like, let's just sort of stitch together a bunch of things from Dante's Peak we liked and see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say any of it's bad because it's fun to watch. It's a terrible movie. I mean, it's bad, but and the science is a little suspect, I'd say.
Maybe so.
I feel like it's 100% scientifically accurate. They wouldn't put it on the television if it wasn't accurate.
Well, I will say this: this movie gets one of the higher Rotten Tomatoes critic scores we've ever reviewed. This gets a 55% critics score.
That's like 10 times more than what we usually review.
Which is amazing. Usually the movies we watch have like a 10% critic score and a 70% audience score because nobody wants to watch it except the people who want to watch it to begin with. This is the other way around. Letterboxd, it gets 2.5 stars. IMDb, 5.3 stars. Right down the middle again. People love it or they hate it or they just don't watch it because it was released in the middle of a pandemic.
I feel like that's all the more reason to watch movies is because they were released. I've watched so much stuff this year that I would have not normally watched, not going to lie.
Oh, this year, yeah. Last year, not so much for me. I had a big drought of movies because I had to deal with a household in a pandemic where we weren't allowed to do anything. So on Amazon, 41% gave this movie 5 stars. So not shabby.
I did look up one thing when I was preparing for this. It's like I like to prepare for everything. This movie grossed a whopping $1,000 in the U.S.
Yeah, I saw that. Like opening weekend was like $868.
Yes, that's like
I
was gonna say that's like 80% of its entire gross with this opening weekend.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they just maybe showed it in one theater for some sort of consideration or contractual obligation. I don't know, but it made 24 million worldwide, but 23.9 million of that was in China. So this is a movie I've really been looking forward to because I hate to say this, I really love When Time Ran Out. When it comes to volcano
movies. It was so bad.
When Time Ran Out is terrible, but you've got Red Buttons saving orphans using his tightrope walking skills.
I've watched When Time Ran Out. God, it's probably now 8 or 9 years ago, I did a class here at Denison where we watched a whole bunch of various volcano movies. And I think that was one of the fine films we watched. And I recall bits and pieces of it, mostly having to do with the thing that they just ripped off in this movie, the giant elevator that I'm sure we'll talk about. But it didn't make a huge impression on me, the movie on the whole, other than that elevator thing.
Yeah, it was a giant waste of money.
Yeah. I just trying to figure out where those classes were at when I was in college. Like, you just watched volcano
More or
movies?
less, yeah.
Did you watch Joe versus the Volcano?
We did not watch that, I'm afraid. I have yet to decide that that's something that deserves to be in my list of volcano movies that we watch, but...
Always. That is the best volcano movie ever.
I tend to come down on the idea that Volcano is the best volcano movie ever. But it's controversial because most of my friends who are volcanologists disagree with me on that front, but whatever. I
land on the Dante's Peak side, but you spend more of your day talking about geology than me.
Could we talk about the term volcanologist for a minute here? Because
go right ahead.
Matt was like, hey, we've got this guy on the podcast this week. He's a volcanologist. And I was like, cool. I didn't know what a volcanologist was. I thought like you knew a lot about Vulcans from Star Trek or something. I also thought you were friends with Mike. And so I was like, oh, it's a friend of Mike who's a big geek. That's cool. He sounds like a fun guy to hang out with. And come to find out, you study volcanoes, which is pretty freaking cool.
It is, and I probably do know a startling amount about Vulcans as well. So there you go.
Glad to hear. I figured you're one of our people. I kind of picked that up. The fact that you agreed to come on this podcast, it kind of says you're willing to try some things.
And volcanoes are cool, and it's fun to say that you study volcanoes because whatever, people are impressed for no good reason.
I still cannot get out of my head that it was a college class devoted to volcano movies. That would have been my. I'm trying to think if it would have been my first or second favorite college class ever, and that's only if there were one about tornado movies. But wow, yeah.
Or about shark movies.
Yeah, shark movies. Oh man, that would be the bomb. or bomb movies, I guess. But our podcast is all about bomb movies, I guess, especially this one. This movie, full-on Chinese financed. There's not much of a story behind this one. They just wanted to make a big Western action movie, but without any Western partnerships because they didn't want that sort of interference. And having seen a couple of partnership movies over the past couple of years, there's one called Dragon Blade that I know of, and one huge bomb here in the U.S. called The Great Wall. This movie had a lot of those same sentiments in it, just without the Western action stars. Usually it's, we're all going to work together and get through this, and Western greed is awful. And I sort of believe in both, but maybe not the Chinese approved version. This movie was actually filmed in Chinese and in English. Both scenes, or every scene, was shot twice. They just ditched the English version for some reason when I came over here. I guess it just wasn't as good. I don't know. But not many people in this movie that you would know. Some people, the girl who plays Xiaomeng, Li Xiaomeng, her name is Hannah Quinlivan. She's actually Australian, and she was in the movie Skyscraper. And of course, Jason Isaacs in this movie from Harry Potter. He also is Dick Dastardly in Scoob. He's in Armageddon, Event Horizon, and he's the voice of Superman in Superman Red Sun.
He gave Dobby a sock. He made Dobby a free elf.
Except that throughout this whole movie, I could never remember his character's name, and all I called him was Lorca in my notes, because that's all I know him.
That's one thing we were talking about. We were watching this movie. Nobody says anybody else's name in this movie except maybe
his name was like Jack Harris. His name was Jack Harris.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Jack Harris.
I just remember him from Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, and that's pretty much about it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Star Trek nerds. What you gonna do? This movie was directed by Simon West. Simon West has made some great Western action movies. Con Air, The Expendables 2, and one special little project back in the 80s when he was just starting out. He directed a music video for a then unknown British singer who had a song that most people have forgotten and then re-remembered in the last few years called Never Gonna Give You Up.
Never gonna give you up.
When I saw that, when I realized that he was the same director, I was even more excited about this film if we were going to get dancing bartenders and things like that, but sadly no.
We should probably introduce our other guest that you've completely forgotten about.
Oh, I wasn't even going to really introduce him as a guest. He's kind of a regular co-host now.
I'm here. I'm being quiet. I don't need to. I don't need to be heard too much on this one.
Okay, I want to make sure you were included, Mike.
We have a much cooler guest. I'd rather listen to him.
Yeah, it's our friend from the Comic Carnival podcast and Real Life, the best man, Mike Wycliffe. Yeah, as always lately for these times.
But, Eric, we need to know about how accurate the science is in this. Can you really map a volcano? That's question number one.
So, have any of you seen Super Volcano, the movie?
No, I'm sure it'll come up eventually, but
it was like a TV movie, really. It was a BBC Discovery Channel thing that came out. What was that, like in the early 2000s, I think?
Oh, I think I may have.
Yeah, and it had the exact same, still non-existent 3D hologram mapping of a volcano. In that movie, they called it Virgil. But it was an acronym for something like volcano interior or something. But it's like totally not anything that we can remotely do at this point to have a lovely 3D hologram of everything going on inside the volcano. But it is a nice way to move the plot along.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I do like that the dad was upset that it wasn't showing certain things. Yeah. Like it just wasn't good enough. He has this miracle of technology in front of him. And he's ticked because it's not showing,
Well, but then every time he would say, well, where's this thing? She'd say, right here.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little sad that technology does not exist. I kind of wish that it did.
No, most of the volcano mapping is either, you're not going to get that in the field even. It's just going to be like usually a nice little, it'll look like, trying to think of a good comparison. it'll look like something really boring on a laptop. It's kind of what we have for mapping volcanoes in action, seismic traces, gas emissions, things like that. It wouldn't be nice and pretty in 3D like the system on this fine film.
Yeah. Well, that system was great, but
on like the Michio Kaku scale of, possible to not going to happen. How is it possible to do this kind of thing, or is it just we're not there yet? Or?
I mean, all the data that they collect in the movie is stuff that is likely collected, but at a lot of volcanoes that are being monitored. But I think to put all that data together and then project it in such a fashion that's out there somewhere that doesn't exist just yet. But this is what all the stuff that they look at in the movie, they talk about that sort of science is okay. Earthquakes, gas emissions, thermal emissions. But you wouldn't rappel into a lava lake to set up the instruments like they did at the opening of this film.
I was gonna say that's exactly what I was about to bring up. I was like, are they really gonna go down into the lava lake in a somewhat sexy volcano scene?
I mean, it's having been next to a lava flow, it's hard to explain to anyone else just how friggin' hot it is. Because it's like, even to somebody who I had spent my career studying volcanoes, and then I get up to my first lava flow, and the heat from it was so remarkably intense that it was like well beyond what I'd even imagined it to be like. So imagine then dropping yourself into an enclosed space with something that's at 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. And yet she's just like hanging out, chatting away with the people on the surface. It was, and you would never rappel somebody directly down above the lava lake to begin with. So, and you see, now I'm going to start rambling here, because it's like, and the roof of that thing, they had a truck parked on the roof of a lava lake. There's just so many things wrong. Like, yes, and then just to ice the cake with her hopping on a motorcycle and taking off it was awesome.
Oh yeah, they just hosed her down a little bit. She was fine.
So are you saying that you don't have a sexy lava outfit? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I don't at all.
We did notice when she dropped her backpack, it sort of dissolved like the One Ring instead of just bursting into flame.
Yep.
And
correct. Yeah,
yep.
That was nice.
Kind of stuff. The prologue of this movie, the heartrending death of the main character's mother. One thing that's always fascinated me is pyroclastic clouds or flows or density currents. I'm not sure what the terminology is these days. Are they so narrowly focused that the guy's wrecked Jeep, I don't know, maybe 30 feet from the mother, wouldn't have also been in harm's way?
They can be focused, but normally it's like they're focused down a river channel. Volcanoes are covered in river channels a lot of the time because they have rivers or streams or whatever. And they go down the river channel, and you might be like up on the edge of the channel, and you might be okay. This is the sort of thing like we have to take a couple steps back in the root of this supposed story, where if this movie had a genesis from when time ran out, which is a poor reproduction of the 1912 Pelée eruption, or I'm sorry, 1902 Pelée eruption. There are stories of people being like up on the ridge next to one of these valleys, and they survive up on the ridge, but everyone in the valley gets wiped out. But yeah, I would say that the distance portrayed in this film, they'd both be toast. So I was a little surprised that he arrived back. There's a number of times, I guess, we will find that we are surprised when he arrives back.
Oh yeah, especially the end. But we'll get to that, because that was something ridiculous.
I did enjoy in that opening scene though, when the child, our main character as a child, says the snow is burning. That was one of my favorite. Yeah. I think it started off with a bang with a line like that.
was gonna say, well, having been around volcanic ash, it is not like snow. You would not.
Yeah, and it's not burning. And why does this child think it's snowing on this tropical island? Is the other thing that bothered me.
Well, also, why does she speak to her mother in Chinese and her mother speaks back in English? But whatever. We do see the college lecture. Have you given a lecture in a room like that? It's very high tech.
It's fancier than anything I've seen. Yep.
Yeah. He talks like Colonel Kurtz about volcanoes. This one in particular. He's obsessed. He says it was the fastest known eruption, and I'm not.
I have no idea what that means either.
Okay, I did not know if there was some way to make that measurement, or
I was trying to figure that one out after he said it, and after it's sort of like I think he compared it to some other I can't remember what eruption he compared it to. That it took like, was it Pompeii? That makes sense. Of course, it's like one of the only eruptions that most people would recognize. But yeah,
he said it took like 12 hours.
Yeah, and I have no idea what the fastest known eruption he could even be talking about. So
yeah, I was gonna say, is he just talking about the length, the time from when the eruption started to when activity ceased?
Yeah, I haven't a clue. And even if it was an eruption, that there are some eruptions that the signs that an eruption are going to happen are really in the window of sort of maybe tens of minutes to minutes, but those tend to be fairly small steam-driven explosions where you build up all the steam in the crater and then the thing explodes and then it's done. And it doesn't do whatever they were showing in that opening salvo of the film.
Yeah, where the top of the mountain melts and explodes. And Jason Isaacs' character says something about drilling. And we're not sure if that is a reference to When Time Ran Out with Paul Newman and the Roughnecks drilling for oil on a volcano, but it may be. We're not sure. I also have a note, she should be in therapy, not geology. I can't imagine someone seeing, what's happened to her mother going, I should definitely get into that field.
It did seem like a very driven career path for someone of that level of trauma, but
we have the grandfather building a houseboat that appears to be in the middle of a jungle. Not sure what's up with that, but we get our MacGuffin compass in there.
I did enjoy that when they did introduce, my God, I was going to call him Lorca again. When they introduced Isaac's character there, Jack Harris, yes, it was clearly just to set him up to be merely someone who would say something to the extent, nothing is cooler than man's contempt of nature or something like that. It's like he's totally, that's all he's being set up to be, is a caricature of capitalist greed. And that was wonderful.
Yes. Again, one of those tropes of Chinese movies. We've got the evil Western greed that's going to lead to pain and suffering for everyone else.
Well, but at the same time, he's also, the mayor in Jaws, yeah, sure, it's dangerous. We're going to keep it open anyway. It's fine.
He's absolutely sure nothing's going to happen for 150 years.
Yeah, that was a great line.
Yeah, just like the guy in When Time Ran Out and every other volcano movie ever, and shark movie and tornado movie and everything else. One of the things Josh brought up about this movie was, he did not think this many people would make this many poor decisions in a row until we had to deal with COVID.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Pre-COVID, I thought all these movies were just ridiculous. There's no way this would happen. After COVID, I'm like, this doesn't seem like that bad. I feel like there could be worse decisions. I feel like they could just feel like it's not even a volcano there.
I think the only difference is we don't have people lining up to jump into the volcano.
True story. Yeah.
Yeah, this place gives off a lot of Jurassic Park vibes too, with the tramway and everything else up around the volcano, going through the tunnel.
That tramway, amongst films that I've seen that have geology focuses, natural disaster movies, it was possibly the least safe thing I have ever seen designed in one of these things. It was like,
oh yeah,
It was basically a ski
Yeah, I mean, it
lift.
was like wires being held up by toothpicks that went up the side of a volcano. And I just, and then they top it off by you arrive at the top and it's a glass floor on top of a volcano. It's like let's.
Oh, it's special volcano-proof glass. We're supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's like the craziest idea, and then you multiply it by 10, and that's like that level. Even if there was no active volcano, if it was just a dormant volcano, there's going to be earthquakes at a place like this too. And you're building a tram that does that. And it's like, I don't even know how it was attached at the top of the volcano. It was just sort of, they arrived there and it was like just dangling off the side. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah. They get off the tram, they get onto the elevator that's supposed to be magma proof. And then they go down, I don't know, maybe 100 meters, not that much closer to the bottom of the crater. I'm not sure what the point is when they all just could have hung out there at the rim, but they shouldn't have been up there anyway. And there's so many reasons that they should never have even gone up the volcano. But what do I know? We get some really terrible effects, some bad CG lava when the thing erupts. Another thing we had a question about is we did have one man on fire with some terrible CGI fire. They put the fire out. It was on his back. And then they covered his head with a coat to get him back to the elevator when lava's leaking around them through the ceiling. Are there coats that are lava proof?
I mean, so the big thing, where do I even start?
I know.
Lava bombs. So lava bombs, that's a term we use. It just is these things being ejected. They solidify to a great degree as they fly through the air, for one. So you're not going to have like these, it was like water balloons of lava. Yeah. And that they also just seem like, you know, when I was just watching it, a lot of my notes is like, this is more like a strafing bombing mission than a volcano behaving. Cause it seemed to be like chasing certain characters but the bombs, a coat's not going to do anything. And B, most of the time if there have been eruptions where people have been hit by volcanic bombs, they're not going to die because they're getting hit by a blob of lava. They're going to die because they're hit by something that weighs like as much as a boulder the size of whatever that bomb is. So like blunt force head trauma is the way you go. So that coat is also not going to prevent that sort of injury as well.
Duck and cover.
Yes. I say it's very hard for people to understand how dense lava is, even though it's liquid. It's still rock.
Yep.
It's extraordinarily heavy. Let's see here. Oh, we've got Mike said Chekhov's compass strikes again, which was a great little quip he made while we were watching the movie about the compass being in the Land Rover and just looking at it. I'm not sure. Did it ever actually come into play?
I don't think it ever actually
really
did. I mean, it popped up once or twice, but it wasn't really in use.
Wow. So they make a big deal about the grandfather giving this compass and then never use it, even though it pops back up over and over.
Maybe it's one of those times where there was another side story that just got excised.
Okay. Oh, the little, I don't know, would you call it a grotto? The two lovers are swimming around in. I was fully expecting full-on Dante's Peak, boiled people. But apparently these two can hold their breath.
Yeah, I was going to say, who needs oxygen? I mean, it's just optional.
But the lava flows in that. The lava is just flowing through this. We're not sure. We're not sure. Is it a man-made pool or something? Because there were pipes and stuff in there.
I think it was supposed to be like something to do with the geothermal system. Like they had reservoirs that they're tapping groundwater, and that the person who wrote this, of course, decided that groundwater just means a giant vat of water in the ground, which is not entirely realistic. But lava flows going into a body of water like that, they would not just be flowing like they were not in water.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen, video in Hawaii of where the lava is being ejected underwater, and it does not just flow out, stay red and whatever. It boils like crazy and solidifies almost
Yep.
immediately.
Well, and it also produces these big, the ocean entries have these big explosions because it's like 15 or 1200 degree lava hitting 25 degree water, and it should explode because the water goes straight to steam, and you get all these glass shards and acid fog and all this lovely stuff that goes along with lava and water interacting.
You see, I was just sitting here figuring that at the very least, by the time lava actually hits the water, it's going to be a lot warmer in there than those people are going to be able to survive just by that alone.
Yeah, that's also true.
But the way you're describing that, they should have died instantly, no matter what.
What did you say?
Yeah, the poisonous gas that came off of that would probably kill them, wouldn't it?
And the fact,
but they were holding their breath.
Also, for the fact that when they dove in, everything was fine, and suddenly they turn around and there's like immense amounts of lava pouring into there. It's something unlikely circumstance, I'd say.
Hold on. Are you saying lava does not sneak up
Typically
on people?
not, no.
It's pretty slow moving, like molasses or slop.
I
think it can be very sneaky.
There's a tornado movie from a few years ago, and I can't remember which one it is. The most recent really bad tornado movie that it was out in theaters. And at one point in the trailer, they implied that a tornado was sneaking up on them. Somebody goes, "Shh, do you hear that?" Because tornadoes are not quiet and aren't following you around.
They're very sneaky, though.
But anyhow,
I think Ninja Tornado, Matt.
Okay. Have you ever found yourself in a situation dealing with a volcano where you had to yell, "The core is shifting fast"?
Not typically, no. There, again, it's like there was a lot of terminology that was used in interesting orders and fashions that were.
Yes.
There's a whole sequence in about the same time that they're swimming in this infinite pool, and I think it was the computer guy who I was convinced may or may not make it to the end of the film, but he said something to the effect of like, we're registering a lot of micro tremors, and they're acting like the fact that they're saying these things, but the volcano's actually already erupting.
Yeah, they'd be bigger than.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of like, these are not very good volcanologists because the volcano's like full on erupting, and they're still making these sorts of same comments. It's like, we're okay. The mountain is venting, and.
Yeah, well, I thought they were bad volcanologists at the beginning, where they have their multi-million-dollar model that's showing everything, including all the magma flowing into reservoirs underneath the mountain. But it takes the dad looking at two photos on his laptop, thousands of miles away, to see that it's bulging on one side.
And and of course, there's the magic drone that they introduce.
That drone was great. It has afterburners.
Yes, that's I think the only purpose it had in the whole film.
Yep, and we're still not entirely sure how it flipped that switch. We just saw it make impact.
It was a great sort of Final Destination moment.
Obviously, with its afterburners, that's how it flipped the switch.
And then, of course, we have the trope of the woman who always wants a child, and the child whose mother has died. And her interactions with Jason Isaacs, which is kind of weird. It must be a cultural difference, because I didn't really understand that scene at all. What I did notice was him asking the little girl if her mother was wearing red, and then noticing a smoking corpse wearing red 20 feet away from the little girl.
So this is one weird thing, and I don't know if hopefully, there is a lot of times in this movie where the main characters just left bodies, whether or not they were sure if the people were alive or not. It was just like, I was shocked at the amount of times where it was clear that there were people who are probably not dead, and the main characters were just like, whatever, let's keep going. And
yeah, the trolley problem came up a lot in this.
Yep.
It's like, do we say these people or these people? So many times, and I was like, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Jason Isaacs' watch he gives the little girl, and it sounds like a heartbeat. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be about.
Because he's rich.
Oh, that's probably true.
He made a point of it earlier in the
Yep.
movie when he was talking about they did that video presentation thing, and she had asked him about his watch, and it was a big
Oh.
memento for him. It was a big deal to him. And see this watch is a heartbeat, and so he was, that was his big hurrah. It was him handing over this thing that means a lot to him to this girl, so that she can then have it when she runs into the mom or the wife later. But I mean, it was a thing they made a big deal out of so that it could be a thing later.
Yeah, he did come to
I seem to tune out when rich white people start talking. So,
hey, he came around there in the end, and it literally was the end because that dude got obliterated. Full on lava bomb.
That was one of those scenes where you're just waiting for that to happen because it's like there's no way he's not going. It's like as it was happening, I was writing down the note awaiting immolation, and it just happens right then.
Well, I thought maybe he would turn around and run back, or try and save his wife who's still out there. But instead, he stands there for 2 seconds and then just blammo. Yep. That was unexpected. I expected more of a heroic send-off.
It made me think of, remember Mars Attacks when they blow up Congress?
Oh, yeah.
I had that pop into my head all of a sudden when that happened.
Oh, speaking of the drone, that drone deals with ash like a pro, man. I have been had flights delayed because of volcanic eruption because engines can't handle that. They'll just shut down. I think they ran into that with Mount Pinatubo when it went up.
Do those engines have afterburners? That's the question.
Yes. Well, if they had afterburners, maybe they'd have made it.
Yes. Nothing. I mean, the car broke down because of the ash. The drone didn't. None of the only helicopter that went down was hit by a bomb. If I remember correct. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, right in the initial eruption. That's a great action scene.
Yes. Yep. My favorite part there, though, is that when they cut to the crowd, and you can, for some reason, the way they did the audio, you hear somebody very distinctly say, "Oh my God, the helicopter is exploding," as they show the helicopter exploding. And I'm like, that is totally necessary there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, and then we've got some crazy Land Rover chases with super fast moving, very non-viscous lava. It's like a tsunami of lava. It's insane. It splatters around like water. And they do some fun stunts, but man, that does not jibe with anything I've seen before.
Right about that time is when we saw on the screen, he started laughing and writing, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did notice that. Yeah. We were watching.
There's, lava flows, the fastest, really hot lava, like in a lava lake. There's been some examples in the Congo, Nyiragongo, where a lava lake breached and the lava maybe on a big steep downhill slope got up to maybe 20 to 40 kilometers an hour. But wow. That is like the really rare exception. Most of the time it's like a few kilometers an hour. Or you can outwalk it, especially on flat terrain. It's going to slow down really fast. So watching this thing just come sloshing after them was quite impressive.
Yeah,
because I've never seen that happen before.
Yep, we did have this spectacular Land Rover jump as well over a small river channel full of lava. At which point Mike said, "Them Duke boys are in for it now."
Yes, well, this was the fastest erupting volcano of all time, so it makes sense that it would have the fastest moving lava of all time.
That's probably true. Some bad model work there. And then they end up in what had been a wooded area. It looked like it had burnt, presumably from some sort of pyroclastic flow. But we've got the ash in the air creating static. Now, I know volcanic lightning is a thing. I've seen it. I'm not sure it just little tiny mini bolts float around you.
That scene, my guess is that somebody read that some of these airplanes that fly through the ash, they get St. Elmo's fire. So it's this static discharge, but you would not, that's because you also have a big metal object flying through the ash at hundreds of miles per hour. So I've never, ever heard of anyone describing any sort of like electric fairies kind of floating in the remnant area of a pyroclastic flow like they were showing there. So yeah, especially not anything that's like electricity that you can then tangibly handle like our main character did.
I was going to say, you wouldn't want to touch that.
Like, if there's enough electricity around that you can see it, don't touch it.
I would also assume that the air on this island would be pretty toxic at this point. So how are they all able to like breathe pretty regularly and easily?
Well, I mean, nobody made any attempt to make any sort of makeshift mask to cover their breathing from the ash at any point in the film. So that's bad because the ash.
Well, they're freedom.
I mean, when you look at what's going to kill you in a volcanic eruption, the breathing in the ash is the number one thing because it's little shards of glass that you breathe into your lungs and your lungs start bleeding and you drown. Or it forms a cement in your lungs and you stop breathing at that point. So there's a very big lack of this. And I was really confused. Like when they show up at the granddad's house and he's about to go join his boat arriving or whatever he says.
Yeah, in his boat.
Yeah, that I can't figure out exactly what he was dying from either. I'm assuming it's ash inhalation, but nobody seems to care about ash throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah, when they were wandering around there in the forest with the volcanic will-o-wisps, I was like, nobody is going to be able to breathe there. We're talking all kinds of toxic gases and ash and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, same. It's just, well, they would have been dead hours ago anyway.
Well, I mean, it's like the in that same scene, the dad is like, suddenly has gone from, we have to get out of here, forget everyone else. There's no time to, sure, go ahead, go run and find your grandpa. We'll hang out here for a while. Yeah.
And then they show up, they drive there when they could have just driven there, apparently, to begin with. And the part we were all waiting for, they make it to the command center, which looks like some sort of hardened shelter, but doesn't act like one. It just looks like a cargo container. A big cargo container. And what I wanted was the lava to come down the hillside and, the container to float in it and have the dad surf it on out to the ocean. That's what I honestly thought was
people in container houses should not throw lava rocks.
And honestly, when the bridge gets washed out in front of it by the lava, we honestly thought he was going to do the red buttons tightrope thing.
I thought he was going to Evel Knievel
that's
with a
what
motorcycle. Like, not going to lie. He's going to pull down one of those solar panels, make a ramp out of it, and just Evel Knievel the shit out of it.
I was right there thinking, like, that river was a lot wider than I think that bike is going to make. But apparently it was.
Yes, he has an even worse idea.
But we watched a Land Rover Defender go over a much larger gap. So
in reverse.
And it went in reverse. In reverse. Yes.
Yeah, we saw in the credits that they actually shot that car making the jump in reverse instead of just reversing the film.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It's impressive, but why? Anyhow, we get once they get rescued, we get, sorry your grandpa died, will you marry me?
Yep.
A little bit of a tonal change.
Well, I mean, after all their horror, you have to have some romance. I mean, oh my God, they trauma bonded over all of this, so now let's fall in love forever.
I guess they were going to get married anyway. It just seems like a bad time for anything. Also, and then we, of course, flash back and find out that the father has escaped with the worst idea I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
Could you go underground like that and survive?
No. Well, maybe.
Okay.
But the thing is, that's exactly what they did in Dante's Peak. It's like there's the
That's
mine
true.
in
There's the
Dante's
mine,
Peak.
yeah.
And in both cases, I still think people would have been toast, because that the pyroclastic flow that was coming over Dad in this film is not just going to conveniently forget that there's a hole there and not have some of it get the hot gases end up in that, whatever that was. That the same lava lake that she was repelling?
But would the heat from the lava keep the stuff out of it? Like, would the heat rising from the lava in the hole keep the smoke from coming down?
I don't think so, because those pyroclastic clouds and stuff, they are denser
I'm
than air.
asking
That's
the
kind of what
expert here,
makes
Matt,
them.
not you.
Oh, okay. Oh, let's talk to the doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, he literally studies volcanoes. For a living.
And I'd have to say that I rarely sit and think this scenario to ponder whether I would jump down a hole full of a lava lake to avoid a pyroclastic flow. There, it's kind of like the sort of 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
You did say the smoke is more dangerous. That's what's going to probably kill you.
Well,
so.
with the pyroclastic flow, the ash is gonna. It's the more like the hot gases that are moving at thousands or hundreds of kilometers per hour that are just going to obliterate your body into tiny fragments. That is what you need to be concerned about. But I was not buying it, and I didn't entirely understand why he shot a flare right before that as well. It's like before we.
Well, did he expect them to know what he was doing and maybe come back for him?
Before we had that flashback, I'm like, is he just expecting that he's toast? Or was he expecting to be rescued and is being very disappointed that his daughter didn't bother to rescue him? Or
yeah,
what was he looking at on the 3D map? What was he trying to find on the 3D map? Did he find that
hole?
Yeah,
I guess.
but
yeah.
So that whole 3D map that's glitching the entire time, he somehow finds this tiny ass hole he can jump in?
On the map, it looked like it was this tube that goes down deep into the volcano, which doesn't make any sense either. So I have no idea. And it was just one of these things where initially I just thought it was one of those scenes where you learn that you should never reconcile with your children in a disaster because you'll die. So
exactly. But I'm guessing, pyroclastic clouds are dense. They would want to go down. If he had gone higher someplace, he might have had a shot. But I think he would have been.
There is always that of I got to get away from the the train car by jumping aside and watching it zip past me, and or this various things where it's I've got to get if I get in here that everything will go by, and I think that's kind of what they were going for. But yeah, I don't think it works that way. No. It's a movie thing, but it's not a good movie thing.
And so if we go back to like one example that of real life sort of a thing like this is that when we go back to, again, that 1902 eruption of Pelée on Martinique, there was a dude in a jail cell who survived the pyroclastic flows. But he was still he was in this jail cell with maybe a tiny little sliver of a window in this big, thick concrete cell. And his body was covered in severe burns, even though he was in literally a bunker with a tiny little opening because of just the heat of the heat of these pyroclastic flows and the fact that the hot gases went into the hole and burned him in the cell. So I don't think Dad there would have found this to be a satisfactory answer in most situations.
Well, also, yeah, he's in there with lava. He would have been roast pig. And also, how did he get out? But whatever. He gets out. They rescue him, and everybody's happy at the end, except for the people whose entire families have been.
He completely, totally strutted out. I mean, did you see his strut the whole time? He just stood up and just strutted, and he was like, "I'm out."
From the moment he walks up with that backpack in the beginning, man, he's got the pace of a champion. Yeah. Also, we noticed some clever product placement at the end, where the rescue boat, whatever kind of boat they were on, was called Hua Insurance. That we noticed in the credits was their insurance company for the movie. So there we go.
Along those lines, this movie featured an abundance of great watches. Lots of scenes seem to feature very large watches being prominently shown on the screen. And I don't know if that's just because maybe people just wear large watches these days. But it was frequent enough that I noticed that there is a lot of watches being shown all the time.
Yep. I noticed that too. They weren't big on brands or anything, so it's just a style choice, I guess. And then we get a lovely music video in the credits of a person, and it shows a person singing a song whose lips do not match the sounds coming out of the song at all. And I'm
Milli
not
Vanilli?
quite sure why. It looked kind of like that. I do know the artist was the husband of one of the producers. That may have had something to do with it.
It was like a Chinese Coldplay is kind of the vibe I was getting from it.
Yeah, I could go for that. That sounds about right. All right, so we've talked about this movie. Let's talk about other volcano movies. We've talked a lot about Dante's Peak, which is probably my favorite volcano movie, even though apparently it's not scientifically accurate according to some
What
of
is
us.
the most scientifically accurate volcano movie that you have watched?
I mean, I think that's the thing, is that Dante's Peak is probably the closest in terms of scientifically accurate.
Wow.
But that doesn't say a lot. I'm just thinking through like the volcano movies that I've seen. Dante's Peak is kind of just a bit of a collage of different types of volcanic hazards happening in a place that kind of looks like it would be a Cascade volcano setting, like Mount St. Helens or places like that. It's not unreasonable sort of place. They do kind of throw in a lot of garbage stuff that would never happen at a volcano like that, but it's probably the closest. Although my favorite comment that I've gotten in talking about this movie is that a person that I know who works for the USGS, her biggest comment for Dante's Peak was they should have made Linda Hamilton the geologist. And I've always thought that, wow, that is actually an astute observation.
Oh, great, yeah.
And, and then like Volcano, I said Volcano is my favorite volcano movie. And it's not because it's anywhere remotely scientifically accurate, but it really leans into the idea of a ridiculous volcanic eruption. And that I appreciated. Just the fact that they're just like, screw this. We're going to make something that is so wildly unrealistic and not care about that at all. And the funny thing is, Volcano is the one that actually had a geology consultant rather than Dante's Peak. So it should have been the other way around, that maybe Volcano should have been more accurate, but it's not. And I don't care because it's got like all the wonderful lava flows going down streets in LA and dropping a building to divert the flow, and Tommy Lee Jones just being awesome. And then, Don Cheadle being Don Cheadle is just like full of people that I enjoyed watching on film a lot more than Dante's Peak. And then, there's a whole bunch of other ones that have come out throughout the years. I tried to watch Pompeii once, the one that came out a few years back, and could not make it more than 20 minutes into that movie.
I was about the same. It was just awful. It was not a good movie to watch.
You go back far enough, you can watch something like Krakatau, East of Java. It's East. Wait, is that the name of the movie? It's because it's wrong, because whatever the movie is, they got Krakatoa in the wrong place. Because it's not, I think it's called Krakatoa East of Java when Krakatoa is actually west of Java geographically. So whatever.
I believe you are correct on the name.
I mean, if you go far enough east, it's east of Java.
Yeah, technically. So take that, Mr. Postgraduate degree.
I did not realize there's so many volcano movies. I'm not gonna lie.
There's a fair amount of them, and then there's a bunch of.
They don't seem to get the same kind of press like tornado movies get, or like shark movies.
Well, I think they come in waves.
Sharknado movies.
There's a number of like the sort of Sci-Fi Channel grade volcano movies too. Like there's one, I think it's just called Volcano in New York. That was about a volcano in New York. And that was kind of like the premise is like, let's have a volcano erupt in New York for reasons. And then there's another one, I can't remember what it's called, but it was kind of like, from what I could gather, is kind of like Snakes on a Plane, but with a volcano that I couldn't quite understand what was going on.
Lava spiders?
Volcano on a plane?
There's something like that. I can't remember.
There was a movie called Lava Spiders.
Okay. Well, I think those come in waves. Back in the 50s, we had some volcano movies. The 60s, we had stuff like, was it The Devil at
Oh, yes.
4
Yep.
o'clock?
With Sinatra was in that one, if I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. And I used to get it and When Time Ran Out mixed up because there's the scene that's very similar of them carrying the orphans across a bridge over a lava flow. But yeah, I love When Time Ran Out, and I think it's even less scientifically accurate probably than this movie was. And this movie was close to zero. I do see you talked about dynamiting the building in downtown LA to block the lava flow. I know right now Iceland, they're building giant dikes to try and divert the lava flow of the volcano, which I will not try and pronounce, to keep it from a local highway. That kind of stuff does happen in real life. Has it been very successful when it's been done?
I mean, Iceland has had the best luck of doing that sort of thing, where they've actually had an eruption. I think it was in the late 70s, where they more or less used ocean water to hose down the front of the lava flow to cool it enough to divert it.
I actually saw a video about that and I'd forgotten about it. Yeah, it was in a harbor town, and they wanted to keep it from blocking the channel. Yeah, I remember. It was
and then there's
you do what you
and
have
I
to
think
do.
in Italy at Mount Etna at one point they dropped what would be the Italian equivalent of Jersey barriers onto the lava flow to try to disrupt it, to keep it from flowing in the direction it was going to go. And then in World War, I think it was around World War II, the U.S. bombed lava flows on Mauna Loa to see if they could divert them as well. So, and it's not had a lot of luck. Volcanoes, whatever. They're like, screw you guys. I'm going to do what I want.
So you can't fight lava like you would with a fire, like with a fire break.
Not easily, no.
Yeah, but like people don't. It's very hard for people, I think, to wrap around the notion of the mass and quantity of lava that comes out during an eruption like that. You can't stop it. There's nothing you can do. You can try. In Iceland, they can do it because it's a very slow moving, as far away as it is at that point, and they just want to divert it. They don't want to stop it.
And just how hot it is too, because it melts like everything. I mean, it's literally hot rock. I mean, it just melts.
Although so there's the whole thing with the dad in this film having the melted hammer from his wife, and that it's a very tiny hammer for one thing. I didn't quite understand that. But, I have taken my rock hammer and jammed it into a lava flow to sample lava directly. And it doesn't, if you do that, your hammer is not going to melt instantly. It's not hot enough to melt like steel that you'd make a good rock hammer out of. So it definitely can melt a lot of things, but it's not going to instantly melt stuff like that hammer seemed to melt in the film.
I did like Matt's comment, though, is no one's been so happy to see a rock hammer since Danny Dufresne. That was pretty good, Matt. I'm not going to lie.
I try.
You missed that gem, Eric.
But, okay, we've been through the plot of the movie, talked a lot about the scientific accuracy. Anything else you guys want to add?
Actually, I was curious, what did you notice that was scientifically accurate? Or was there anything you noticed that was more scientifically accurate than you would have expected?
I guess one thing that, at least looking at my notes, is that they did a really good job of, at least with the CG of the pyroclastic flows, were quite good. Like in that scene when he fires the flare and we all assume that he's been engulfed by that that was a really nicely done one. And when the mom dies at the beginning, it was they did a really good job of sort of capturing the size and velocity, and I don't know, I can't think of what the right word is, but they definitely looked as nasty and dangerous as they should. Other things, it's hard to say that there is much else that was scientifically accurate in this film beyond the really nice pyroclastic flows. I've never heard a volcanologist utter the phrase, the volcano's going pyroclastic. So although, again, it just seemed like somebody looked up a bunch of stuff about volcanoes and mashed it all together.
Could they have fixed the volcano by reversing the polarity?
Yeah, I think that you need to say that at some point now. I think the volcano is going pyroclastic. I think that's a thing now.
Yeah, there's a couple other quotes that they said that just like I'm sitting there saying I have no idea what they're thinking. Oh, that's right. When they seem to to lean into the idea that the volcanologists are collecting, or they go to this idea that they're collecting all this data, but Dad is all about like his gut feeling. Like at one point he says, "What data? This is a volcano." Like data is not going to offer you any insight into what the volcano is going to do. And I was a little taken aback by that as well. It's like, they're not, like I said, they don't seem to be the best volcanologists in the world, but
I mean, data may not be able to, but would a Vulcan be able to?
Well, I mean, that's what happened. And which was it? Which one is the second of the bad J.J. Abrams Star Trek films?
Into
Darkness. Doesn't Spock stop a volcano at the beginning of that movie?
I think they do, actually. That's like the opening gambit before this credits.
Yeah, so there you go. Vulcan stopping a volcano. Yeah. It's the world has come full circle.
There we go. Volcanologist extraordinaire. Okay, anybody else? Anything? All right. We don't have a game to play this week so much. We've had plenty to talk about. But one thing we do once in a while is do a little bit of fantasy casting. And since this movie was all Chinese, using people who were Taiwanese or mostly naturalized citizens to other countries.
If you ask China, the Taiwanese people were Chinese.
Yeah. They were Chinese who do not live in China for some reason. We've got Canadians, Australians, everything else. But if this were just a big Western, big budget movie, who would you put in it without using any names from Dante's Peak, Volcano, or
Jason Statham?
Statham, yeah. Do you think he could pull for which part?
The guy who drives the Jeep the entire time.
Okay.
I could see him doing that. As far as like the dad, it had to be somebody that's like still relevant enough, but Western enough. Like, I mean, 30 years ago, Clint Eastwood, but like Clint Eastwood isn't really relevant anymore. Except for being a crazy old man. Maybe Schwarzenegger?
They'd probably go
but
with
he doesn't
Schwarzenegger.
quite have that saunter.
Yeah.
So
put another 10 years on The Rock and they'd put him in there.
I mean, Denzel's got that walk. He could pull it off.
That's a good point.
Still pretty relevant. Or Bruce Willis even.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, for some reason, the first person that popped into my head when I was thinking of like who would play the dad would be Ken Watanabe.
Yeah,
I love that.
And sorry, go on.
What's he been in recently? Goodness. Oh my gosh. Godzilla, right? He's in Godzilla. Yeah.
Let them fight.
You figure out who it is, Josh?
No, I have no idea. I'm just going to let Eric continue to talk.
Okay. So yeah, Ken Watanabe. Okay.
How about the daughter, the lead?
Yeah.
Who people put there?
Who's in that?
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone?
Only because I love Emma Stone
She'd
so
be good
much.
for that.
She seems like she could be bitter enough about the death of her mother to become a volcanologist.
Yeah, and she's just wonderful. In general, I kind of love her. I'm not gonna lie.
What about the computer guy back at the I don't know, what were they calling it?
Jack Black.
Command Center? Jack Black. Yes.
100% Jack Black all the time.
See, the problem is like all of the volcanologists that they had, other than the professor and the dad, look like they were undergrads in this film. So I'm like, it's somewhat unrealistic on that fashion. It's like I'm trying to think of actors who are of that age group. And of course, I don't know most
Yeah.
of them because I'm old and out of touch with everything. But
I feel that.
But it's like, I'm sitting here thinking like, who'd be good at the daughter would be like Elisa Dushku. And it's like, but she's like in her 40s now, right? So that doesn't work. So
yeah, and Emma Stone has to be getting. I think Emma Stone and I are about the same age, so she is born 88, so she's 32. So that's kind of the age range. Closer.
Ish. I don't know. Fan casting stuff is always weird for me because, they already cast it.
Yep.
So,
And I don't think they're going to remake this movie over here. I'm sorry, everybody.
Well,
It's my opinion, but
they made this movie here to begin with, and then they made it over there, and I'm sure somebody will make it again.
Oh, that's true. That's true. We've made the same movie over and over and over again. All right. I think that's it. All we have left really is to rate this movie. We usually rate the movie out of 10. You can use any scale you want. You can rate it out of 5 stars or letter grades, however you like. I usually rate things based on how enjoyable they are to watch, not whether they're good movies or bad, because this wouldn't be a podcast if we were doing good movies.
Yeah, and you can do decimal points too. So if you're like, this is worth 0.1 stars, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's not my rating. I'm just saying has been a rating in the past.
I say we have a guest that's been on, I don't want to say regularly, but more than anyone else, who just throws out a letter grade between A and Z. And none of them are good because the movies I've shown that person have been worse than this one.
Poor Jacob. Poor Jacob.
Yeah. Anyhow, one more thing I wanted to bring up. Could Chris Pratt outrun a pyroclastic cloud?
Absolutely. Especially on the back of a raptor.
I was going to say, Chris Pratt could, but no one else on Earth could.
I say it actually overtakes him for a little bit, and then he pops out with no visible damage. So.
On the back, see, he's running at first, and then the pyroclastic cloud comes, and then he gets taken over by it, and then pops out, and then for some reason is now on the back of a velociraptor. Like there was a velociraptor inside the cloud that he found and saved.
But anyhow, that's a movie for another time. Let's see here. Let's start with Mike this week. What would you rate this movie?
I would give it a 6.
A 6? Ooh, that's pretty high.
I mean, it's still pretty middle of the road, but it's better than average.
Yeah, I
definitely good for this show.
Josh, what would you give us?
I'd give it a 5. This is a movie I would tell people to watch.
Okay.
I think it's fun enough. I mean, it's not terrible like some of the stuff we watched. I mean, it was palatable.
Yeah, it is that. Eric, what do you think?
Oh, this is tough because I don't know what I was expecting from this movie. And there are parts of it that I enjoyed and then parts of it that I just despised greatly. And I just also wanted to have whatever Lorca tell me to get free drinks when the eruption is going some more. And he only did it once. So I'd say, I don't know. I'd give this, what feels right is somewhere between a 3 and a 4. But that's kind of just, I like it. I think I like both Dante's Peak and Volcano much more than this film, but there are other Volcano films I like much less. This one at least had a lot of action. So that's a good thing.
Well,
yes.
And you have a bit of a burden of knowledge too, where you know how inaccurate many of the things are, and I'm sure that takes you out of it in a lot of ways too.
I think the fact that like most of the movie's action was built around volcanic bombs exploding around people just is hard for any volcanologist to watch a movie like this and not be bothered by the fact that the bombs are like acting like incendiaries hitting the ground. And it's just, it is not how it works. And that's just it. If I pictured it as like more like a war movie and ignored that there's a volcano involved, it was enjoyable in that sense.
Okay. I think I would give this movie a good solid 7. My rating's usually higher than anybody else's anyway. Just because
that's even high for you, though.
I revel in the terribleness of
that. Is quite high for you. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a volcano movies, and ever since I was a kid, I've loved volcanoes. So it's something I try and find out about.
It's like you grew up on an island or something.
Yeah, I know. You'd think. I'm still bitter about that flight delay in '96 from Rupehu, but still, whatever, you guys. There's not much more to it. We did have a giveaway. We attempted to start last October. Still, nobody has tweeted the hashtag Ghost Fever to win our copy of the Ghostbusters video game for Xbox.
Do we still have that?
We do, in fact, still have it. And it
I might
is
just
yours
take
tonight,
that
buddy.
home.
Yours tonight. Yep.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yep. I do have an Ace Ventura review here.
Fuck off.
uh,
So, quick setup, Eric, if you've not listened to the podcast. I am a firm believer that Ace Ventura 2 was better than the original. These guys do not agree. And so now Matt has taken it upon himself to read a bad review about Ace Ventura 2 on every single podcast that we do. So, that's a little setup to why this is happening.
All right. Well, on the 8th of February of this year, Andre Rocha rated this on Letterboxd. His entire review is make it stop, 1/2 star. Oh, wait a minute. That's not from Ace Ventura 2. That's from next month's movie. I guess we'll find out what that is when we get to it. But it's going to be one that Josh is going to love and hate.
I remember what it is now.
Yep. And next month we're going
I have to do this every month, Eric. Can you imagine the torture they put me through?
As I say, next month we're going to talk a little bit about the future of the podcast. We're going to be taking a bit of a break now that we're allowed to travel and get out and everybody's got their shots. We're going to take a few months off before we come back. We don't know how long that'll be, but I've got a little side project I'm working on, and hopefully I'll have more news on that soon. And we'll give some more information next month. I really want to thank you, Eric, for...
Yeah, I really enjoyed having you here, Eric. It was a different tone to the podcast. It was milder than we usually are, but it was really cool because I got to learn a lot about volcanoes that I didn't know. And
it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun to watch that film. Just again for more free drinks that I can get during my volcanic eruption.
Yep. Anything you want to plug before we go?
I don't know. I think you plugged the fact that I write for Discover. So if you just look up me and Rocky Planet, you'll find what I write about. And I hang around on Twitter too much. So you can probably find me there under Eruptions blog.
All right. Our social media, of course, will be in the notes for the podcast. And I don't have any weird recommendations this month, except for maybe, I don't know, I think that Iceland should win Eurovision. Dottie Freyer's a treasure to us all. But that's about it for me. Any of you guys?
If you haven't watched The Nevers yet, you should. It's pretty good.
Okay, Mike, you got anything?
No, not at the moment.
All right. You can find Mike on Saturdays at Comic Carnival. He'll be glad to sell you things. How's that?
Well, as always, Matt, I love you.
I love you, man. And thanks, Eric. Really, this is a lifetime thing for me. I've been following your work for years. So thank you for coming on and spending this time with us and watching this.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. We'll catch you next month. Bye.
Bye.
This episode of You're Gonna Love This or Not was recorded using Zencaster because we're still surrounded by rat lickers. It features Matt dragging Josh down into the dark depths of his movie collection and is released monthly on the Team Geeking family of podcasts. It is produced by Mike Wycliffe, edited by Liz Shunn, and features music by Scott Holmes, who can be found on the Free Music Archive. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or the podcatcher of your choice, and please leave us a rating and review. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.